Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spirit of Truth Church, Spirit of Truth Outreach, for this talk on Apology Accepted, Biblical Archaeology for the Patriarchs. So tonight, I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I'm probably just going to do the live stream portion of tonight, as my throat has also kind of been hurting a little bit, and I'm just not feeling up to my usual self. But again, we'll go ahead and hit this stuff and have a good time with it. So the Patriarchs, this is actually a major point of contention in archaeology, especially at the scholarly level. Now, I'm going to take the conservative understanding of this, which is the idea that the Patriarchs date themselves, if you will, or are dated to approximately the Middle Bronze Age. Now, the Middle Bronze Age is 2166 to 1805 BC, is roughly what we're talking about, okay? And the question is, do we have any evidence from back then? And it's hard, it's difficult. We don't have a whole lot from then, and a lot of what we do have is sort of corroborating evidence. So for example, we have something called the Story of Sinui that dates approximately 2000 BC to 1800 BC. And in this, you have the description or depiction of tribes, so about how people lived in tribes. And it's very similar to the time of the Patriarchs. So again, we see things like that. We see, oh, they had tribal forms of government. Oh, yep, here's another story that also has tribal forms of government. Okay. Another piece of reliability of the patriarchal stories is demonstrated in something called the Tales of the Magicians, which accurately records a list of rulers that occur about 1,000 years earlier. Okay, so again, the lists are similar, they match up, etc., and we're all good. Okay, so there is accurate reporting in antiquity. We can see that. Additionally, the names of Abram and his ancestors and things agree with the Syro-Mesopotamian names of the time. Now, this is important because the naming of things, cities, people, places, is very hard to fake if you're not in that time zone because people simply forget. So the fact that the names are common to that era is really good and gives another good notch on the historical reliability of the patriarchal accounts. Okay. For example, the mention of the city of Haran in the patriarchal accounts is particularly important. And the reason for this, and we can go in here and we can take a look at Genesis 11, 28, and 31, which I'll go ahead and pull up now. Haran died in his native land in Ur of the Chaldeans, during his father Terah's time in 30. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, Haran's son, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son's wife, and they set out together from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. So why is Haran important? Haran's important because it was abandoned after the patriarchal period. In other words, it was abandoned from 1800 to 800 BC. No one in that time frame would have made up an account that included that. For a lot of people, they're probably like, where is this city even at this point? As they were reading it later on. So again, it's unlikely to be chosen if the story is made up, which, as you're going to see in a little bit, that's the common view of the scholarship, is that these stories were all made up. Obviously, I don't think that's true. I argue against it. I think here's some historical evidence that shows that it is reliable. Okay. Additionally, during the Bronze Age, Egypt was viewed positively. So again, we have Egypt viewed positively in the Bronze Age. Why is that important? Because they go there. They go to Egypt for some form of reception, essentially Jacob and his sons. But in the Iron Age, it was viewed negatively, so we probably wouldn't have seen a positive story of the reception of the Egyptians during that time, of the Patriarchs, or the Patriarchs. That's Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the sons. Moses is after Patriarchs. Okay. Second, they found on a hieroglyphic relief in the Bronze Age, the hieroglyphic relief on a wall in the Temple of Amun at Karnak, which, if you're familiar with Luxor, that's Luxor, mentions a defensive site, the Fort of Abram, and it's fascinating what it says about it. It says that it's, it talks about the Fort of Abram. This is essentially thought to be the Israelite city of Beersheba. And Abram, or Abraham, was likely the original founder of the city. So it's pretty cool to see that kind of link here, too, in some Egyptian temples. So now I'd like to go ahead, and I'm going to put this up here. It's going to be very small, so I apologize for that, but we'll do our best. I'm going to go ahead and put up here this chart from the Biblical Archaeology Handbook. And if you'll notice here, in the top portion, and I'm going to see if I can annotate. I don't know that I'll be able to. No, I won't be able to. Now, if you look at the top, it says early date 1. So this is essentially the early date that I would probably hold to, or that I would hold to, sorry. Late 3rd, early 2nd millennium BC. So what are the biblical persons and events taking place this time? Well, we've got essentially Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, this is again Middle Bronze 1 and 2, and the dating would be somewhere between 2100 and 1900 or 1850, roughly, for the dates we're talking about. So pretty ancient. Proponents of this, you're going to have Archer, Barker, Waltke, Davis, and essentially mainly most fundamentalist or evangelical schools of thought are going to hold to the early dating. The standard for this is the internal biblical chronology. So in other words, what we're looking for here is internal biblical chronology, and that's how we're trying to structure these dates. And we would argue that this was first written by Moses. Okay? So what's the evidence of this? Well, you have the antiquity of the accounts. You've got the nomadism and migration stories. You've got the personal names and places that line up. You have the excavations at Ur and Elba. You have the Amorites being, again, a people in that time. Geographical conditions match up, and the climate in the region also matches up. So there's a lot of solid evidence corroborating the biblical stories. Then you get some people saying, well, it's not the late 3rd century, early 2nd, it's the late 2nd BC. So that's 2000 to 1500. Now, there's reasons for doing this. And they say, well, these aren't true accounts, they're events that did occur. So they are remembered traditions. And thus, the dates are moved substantially down, even up to 1550. So during Middle Bronze 2. Okay, this is Gluck, Albright, Kitchen, Millard, and Mazar. Okay, and again, the standard would then be more archaeology, Egyptian chronology, things of that nature. And first written by either the monarchy, Moses, or the courtroom of David and Solomon. So basically, a lot of them tend to deny Mosaic authorship from this group. And they'll use pottery, Egyptian backgrounds, things like that, and the Hyksos dynasty and other things to try and date things, not the Bible. Okay. Then you have the more skeptics, and they're going to date things late dating first millennium. So this is pretty late. Again, still calling them events, still saying these are things that happened, but we just don't know a lot about them. And that's Herzog. They're going to use archaeology. They're going to say that they're first written United Monarchy. So that means essentially that and I want you to key in on this, what they're doing is they're actually saying that the majority of the Bible, the Old Testament, was written during the United Monarchy in this case. Okay. And again, they say, well, there's excavations at Beersheba and there's anachronisms in the Genesis accounts. That's what they would say. And finally, there's your liberal dating, which is the extreme dating of exile and post-exile Maccabean era, which is basically religious history. These aren't real accounts, that they were created to defend the monarchy or defend the realm. The period would be the Persian-Greek period, 400 to 165 AD. So in other words, this is the view that it's all just made up. And Thompson and Van Sectors agree with this. This is form, criticism, structural analysis, and it's exile, post-exile. So this is basically, it's all JEPD theory, folklore, literary tradition, oral tradition, that kind of thing. Obviously, we don't hold to that. We hold to the early dating one. So just wanted to give you a little bit of that because that's kind of important to understand what's going on with all of these and why people are giving all these crazy dates from 400 AD or BC all the way back to 2166 BC. All right, so continuing on. We then have, did the patriarchs domesticate the camel? So one of the other big things that happens at this time is this idea of the camel. There's camel stories, right? People have camels in the patriarchal times. And the thought is, well, camels weren't domesticated then. So there's essentially a lack of evidence, especially for the dromedary camel. You weren't finding them domesticated. So what happened? Well, I'll go ahead and read you some quotes. First, quote, archaeological and epigraphical evidence does not support the domestication of the camel before 1200 BC. Well, that's pretty big, because if that's the case, then these accounts must be fictional, at least in some level, because they have camels in them. Okay. However, there is, quote, scattered osteological and iconographic evidence that shows that camels have been domesticated much earlier. So how early? Some even go back to the 4th millennium BC, but what kind? Domestication of the Bactrian camel, not the dromedary camel, and that's the key. Dromedary camels, not domesticated. Bactrian camels were domesticated. Okay, and there's another fun quote. The Bactrian camel's natural habitat was typically outside the sphere of urbanization, but droughts could have forced camels into populated areas, and then maybe they returned to where they were first bred, and now people sort of understand where camels are and can use them. Camels can also remember good food sources, and there are essentially archaeological finds dating these Bactrian camels back to 3rd millennium BC. So a Bactrian camel is a two-hump camel. Okay, it's a two-hump camel, and they've got early Bronze Age finds of clay that essentially attached, like clay camels, early Bronze Age, early bronze, that attached clay camels to clay carts. So even showing them using the camels in a domesticated sense. Okay, and that was found in southern Turkmenistan. We've got 3rd millennium gold and silver vessels that depict what appear to be Bactrian camels. And there's even a love poem from the old Babylonian period about the milk of the camel. Okay, so essentially it looks like, yes, people were using camels, people were domesticating camels very early, despite what some modern archaeological scholars want to say. Again, these stories, as well as the evidence of the use of the camels and pull carts, it's ample to basically justify the use of Bactrian camels back to the Patriarchal Age. Now, what about the antiquity of the patriarchal narratives? Well, so what's interesting here is you've got these in Genesis 14, 1 through 17. So let's take a look at that. In the days of Amphrael, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim, waged war against Bera, king of Sodom. Essentially, you've got this long list of kings and places, right, in Genesis 14. Question is there any archaeological evidence for this? Well, we do have record of invasion of the Lower Canaan by Mesopotamian kings. We have the presence of clarification names, even in archaeological record. The names of the kings appear in Babylonian texts from the same period, so this is really good corroborating evidence. There's a lot of specific geography and political situations that were centered on the times of the patriarchs that's confirmed. And again, by the 1st millennium BC, these narratives would not be compatible with the layout politically, so you have this problem. You have this problem where these early accounts contain all of this very specific data. And if they were written in 400 AD or something like that, there'd be no way for these people to know that. There'd be no way. It'd be very, 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 it'd just be uncommon. There'd be no reason even to put all of this in there if it weren't true. So the fact they have this and it corroborates with other sources is a really good indicator that, yes, these are historical records. Okay. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about Abraham in the Middle Bronze Gate at Dan. And I'll show you, again, a photo of this. Give me 1 second here, because this is a pretty cool discovery. Oh, by the way, here was a Bactrian camel. You can see a Bactrian camel relief there in the middle. They're riding on a 2-humped Bactrian camel there on the left and the right sides. And let's go ahead and show you this. So this is the gate at Dan. This is really crazy. This is really, really crazy because this is where Abraham essentially walked. So this is the Middle Bronze Gate of Laish, or Tel Dan. And essentially what this is Tel Dan is the ancient city of Dan. Okay, it's Egyptian Laish, or Leshan. And it's a very large Canaanite city with highly developed material culture. In other words, a lot of pots and implements and things. They have a lot of material things they have. Rich tombs, massive fortifications, and sloping ramparts. So this is a really huge and cool find. And essentially there is a 4,000-year-old mud brick gate in the midst of the ramparts with an arch. And if we go to Genesis 14:14, 1 second here. When Abraham heard that his relative had taken prisoner, he assembled 318 of his trained men born in his household, and they went in pursuit as far as Dan. In other words, this city and this gate. So you have this, and the Canaanites locked the gate by filling it in for some reason, maybe structural instability. But the fact that you found even like just these cities, these places that corroborate the stories of the patriarchs is amazing. Now, again, you're not going to find massive amounts of things corroborating patriarchs. Probably not anything from their lives even, because again, we're talking about 1 or 2 people or 3 people or 12 people. It's small numbers. But the cities, the kings, the things that they mentioned and did, these are real people, places, and geographies. And that's great corroborative evidence for the patriarchal period. And with that, I'm just going to take a look and see if we have any questions. I am cutting a little bit early tonight. Okay, so where was this located? Could you go ahead and type in again a second question to be specific, the city of Laish? Oh, okay, sure. Give me 1 second and I will get that for you. 1 second. That's a good question. Where is the city of Laish located? So this is, I need map. Nope, I need, where is it? When I'm looking, there it is, ESV Bible Atlas. Okay, and we need World of the Patriarchs. All right. Cigarettes. Hold on one second. Regional geography, biblical world. All right. Let's see if I can get this on. I'm trying to pull up a map here. Let me see if this... I don't know if I'm able to do it too well here. Hold on, let me see if I can find it when I say I have my nice little Bible Alice, but... All right, so we need Dan. Okay. And it's not showing where it is. I'll say it like this, Upper Galilee. Okay, it's the identified as a town located in Upper Galilee. So if you take a look at the Upper Galilee region. But very cool thing there. All right, so with that, let's see, any other questions? Let me get back to my YouTube. There it is. Also by the Patriarchs mean the fathers of the land. Yes, this is Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and sons. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are the Patriarchs. We're talking about essentially Genesis 11 or 10, 11 through Genesis 50 is essentially the era that we're talking about. Yep. So very good question. All right. Well, we're going to call it early tonight. I'm still, like I said, still feeling a little under the weather. Next time, in 2 weeks, we're going to pick up with one of the more exciting ones for archaeology. We will be digging into Exodus, and there is a ton of cool stuff in Exodus that confirms the Exodus because of the crossovers with Egypt. So there's just a lot more neat stuff. Very excited to go through that with you in 2 weeks. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I'm not going to do a live chat tonight just because I'm still, you can probably tell my voice is a little shot. I'm still feeling under the weather. But it is good to see everybody here. Thank you for being excited for it. Good times. And to everybody who's watching, I just want to say a big hello and thanks for tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. So you all have a wonderful night here from Spirit of Truth Church, Spirit of Truth Outreach. Have a great night.